Hello，大家好，我是 John。今天我们来继续做这个访谈栏目，好吧？然后今天的访谈嘉宾是一位美籍华人，好吧？他是在如果没记错的话，应该是在亚特兰大长大，美国亚特兰大，对。然后他有去过多少个国家，我记不清楚，应该很多，好吧？然后里面跟我们 SEO 关系最大的就是他有两段经历，一段是在 Empire Flipper，就我们行业一个比较知名的网站买卖平台，这个工作过几年，然后在深圳也工作过，应该差不多是1年半还是2年，做那个跨境电商，好吧？然后现在他有成立自己的一些品牌，也是做电商，对 SEO，对各个不同的获客渠道。有自己的一些见解和经验，好吧？这也是为什么我想邀请他来做我们这次访谈的主要原因，好吧？然后我先还有大概10分钟他会进来，我先利用这10分钟快速介绍一下，这个嘉宾的一些背景情况，好吧？行，他的名字叫 Andy，好吧，姓吴哈，Andy 吴。他其实也可以讲中文，但是，应该就仅限于这种日常的这种沟通，好吧？对于marketing 和 business 的一些术语，他应该是可能是比较陌生的，所以这次采访的话，我应该会用英语跟他沟通，可能看他的有可能会中文打一下招呼或什么的，好吧？对，这是他的 LinkedIn，我们来快速过一遍，好吧？对，他自己说自己是 passionate about e-commerce and crypto，对电商和那个加密货币、区块链那个好像都挺感兴趣的啊。过去的经历看一下 Full Time，这是他自己的一个品牌，应该是自己做的事情啊。Director of Marketing, Director of Operations。OK，这一段经历 Digital Marketing and Business Development Manager，这个应该是我应该是在深圳，基于深圳吧。对，应该在龙华那里啊。我们18年当时见的时候，见面的时候就在深圳，好吧？当然我们在海外，在曼谷啊，在其他地方也有见过啊。然后再看这一段经历，在 Empire Flipper，好吧？这个是当那个 supervisor，OK，migration supervisor，应该是负责这个网站的这种交接，就是买家和卖家，好吧？migration 应该是在这里工作了2年，好吧？OK，对这段经历，待会在我的那个采访里面，我会重点的提一提，问一问，好吧？然后这是他之前的 Philips 66，这个应该是有可能他第一份还是第二份工作，好吧？哦，这个应该他第一份，OK，这个应该是第二份，他年龄具体不知道，应该30多一点点吧，我感觉啊。OK，Excel，对我能知道的信息大概就这些，嗯，然后另外一点想提的是，他这种生活方式的话，跟我们很多人向往的这种游民有一点像，他真的有点像是游民，一个月1年呢，有时候我感觉他会去不下10多个国家，好吧？反正我们一般沟通就是通过 Facebook，Facebook 我看他经常1、2个月就打卡4、5个国家都很正常，好吧？他毕竟他是拿美国的这种身份嘛，也是美国人啊，所以那个签证去哪里也比较好用啊。上一次见面我们应该是在曼谷，对，现在他有可能已经不知道，应该去了台湾吧，好像，然后再去美国，再去哪里啊？对，行，我们现在就等一下他进来，然后我们就直接开始这个采访，好吧？我先把屏幕分享给关掉。All right, so where are you
Uh,
located right now?
wait, before we start, can we quick question. Do you need me to give you the website ahead of time or are we going to screen share that?
No need. When we come to that part, you can just share your screen. Are you able to share your screen?
I am I'm just going to delete all my other tabs and just make sure
Yeah. You can
I
clean
have
up that
a
a little bit. Yeah, and then click on the sharing button to see if it works.
okay.
But we can do it at that time. No rush. You just clean your tab a little bit. Yeah,
Okay. Cool. I just want to make sure I have it loaded. Oh
cool.
yeah, I guess we
Yeah.
can just edit it, right?
Yeah, I can edit. Yeah, I actually just started learning advanced video editing skills. I'm using CapCut.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Which part of
Sweet.
so you told me you're in Taiwan. Which part of Taiwan are you located right now?
Yeah, I'm located in Taipei, Taiwan at the moment.
Okay, Taipei. And how long are you going to stay there?
I'll be here for a month. So probably leaving in a couple of weeks and heading back to the US for a little bit to do some family stuff. And yeah, then I'll be back, I think, on the road.
Cool, man. It looks like you don't have plan to come back to Thailand. Maybe at
I
the end
mean,
of
I will come back to Thailand for sure. I always find that to be the best place to work. It's the best place to concentrate because it's so convenient. But I will come back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know. You probably know that Chiang Mai SEO conference is in November, right? So even though
Yeah.
you're not that related to SEO community, but a lot of buyers, e-commerce sellers, e-commerce SEO agencies, a lot of them they are here. Yeah, it would be great network opportunity.
Yeah, I definitely will check that out, I think. For sure.
Okay, cool. All right, let's get back to the real interview. So as you know, I have this kind of side project, for I don't know 7 or 8 years. Yeah, this year is probably year 7. Yeah, and now I want to make it a little bit more official. Like I want to grow it, more like turn it from a side project to maybe hopefully one of my main businesses. So, and then this YouTube channel is a new product line that I added since 3 or 4 months ago. Yeah, so it's great to have you here to join. Oh, I forgot to mention it's called SEO Action Show. This is
Got it.
our YouTube channel's product name. And then my brand is called SEO Action Blog. Yeah, in Chinese, 英文 SEO 实战派.
Nice. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome. For those who don't know about you, can you give us a quick intro about yourself, what you do, where you're from? Actually, before you come to this Google Meet, I already give them a brief introduction, but it would be great to have you introduce yourself from your perspective.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Andy Wu. I'm actually from Alpharetta, Georgia, and I grew up there all my life. And then I went to Georgia Tech and graduated as a chemical engineer before working kind of in Los Angeles. And now I am currently working on my own e-com brands and in my free time, I tend to like to travel, hike, and try new foods.
Cool. Wow, that's pretty quick. All right. Okay. My first question is, how did you get started with online marketing, building the business? Can you briefly talk about your past work experience? Looks like you have a couple of interesting, experience that we want to highlight later.
Yeah, so trying to make a long story short here, I got involved with online marketing after I decided to go and travel the world. Essentially, my original plan was leave Los Angeles, go travel for a year, and then come back to LA and be a chemical engineer again at one of the oil companies. But while I was actually traveling the world, I kind of discovered the world of affiliate marketing and a lot of people running Amazon associate sites back in the day. And yeah, as soon as I started exploring there, I started looking for jobs. And after a while, I landed my first job at a place called Empire Flippers, which was a brokerage for online businesses. And I got to meet a lot of people that were working in the online business, online marketing space. And that was just kind of like my gateway, my intro, and I just jumped head in after that. So I worked there for a few years, and then I ended up going to China to work for a big FBA selling company. And so this wasn't like a company where they just sold 1 or 2 brands. These big Chinese Amazon FBA selling companies had over hundreds
It's
of
in
thousands of
Nonghua, right?
SKUs.
You still remember that district name?
Yeah.
Nonghua.
Yeah, I think it was in actually, I don't remember the exact area, but yeah, there's a lot of big Chinese FBA selling companies there, and it was just
Yeah.
crazy to see like the scale at which big companies who sell, almost maybe hundreds of millions to billions in revenue on Amazon, like how they worked, how quickly they moved. And so that was a huge learning experience, meeting kind of an e-com brand at that scale. So I really, really
Yeah.
love that experience.
Actually, majority of our followers, I mean, the audience of this blog or YouTube channel, they are based in Shenzhen and Guangzhou. So, okay, we'll jump to that part later on. Okay, but first of all, I'm curious about when did you start that kind of 1 year gap to, live in LA and then explore the world? When was that?
Yeah, for me, that was 2016. So, I had worked a long time at the oil company, and
Oil company. Okay, is it in LA or in Georgia?
Yeah, it was in Los Angeles. I used to work for one called Phillips 66 or ConocoPhillips.
Okay, I see that name. I remember you put this in a LinkedIn. I was just looking at your LinkedIn profile. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was your real first job, right? Like oil company after graduate from Georgia Tech.
Yeah. So I graduated from Georgia Tech, and I figured, LA was a great place. Wanted to get out of kind of the small town where I was from in Georgia, and wanted to put the degree to work. Right? You go to school and you pay all that tuition. Wanted to get that degree to work. So yeah, I became a process engineer at an oil company right out of college.
Then that sounds like oil company. You just said you learned civil engineering. Is that correct?
Yeah,
That's your
chemical
major,
engineering.
right?
Yeah, 化学工程, chemical engineering.
化学工程, okay. So in terms of, I mean, in Chinese words, that 对口的专业 is like you learn these, you find the first job. It's a perfect job,
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah. How long did you work for that oil company?
I worked there for about 4 years. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's quite long. Kind of 4 years for working for a company is kind of long to me. I never worked for one company for more than 2 years.
Especially in this day and age. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right. So I believe at that time you're like maybe 26, 25 years old, right? After leaving LA, give yourself 1 year break to kind of explore the world, right?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know what it was, but I maybe had talked to a few different people, or maybe I had a couple of relatives that, were a little bit older at the time, and just many people were telling me how they regret not traveling much more when they were younger, and then they were able to. And I just told myself one day, hey, I'm not going to have this regret. I literally just went online, booked a one-way ticket for 6 months out, and just got ready to essentially leave.
Oh wow.
And then just took off.
Oh wow. Okay. I don't know. Maybe I want to dig a little bit specific. Like, were you super excited about that 6 months trip, or is it a little bit nervous? I want to know like a little bit more about how you think. Because I don't know. In China, if you leave your 4-year job, um, and then everything in the future is like uncertain, then we tend to be more conservative. Yeah, we don't want to make big decisions like that, especially by one-way ticket. How did you feel that at that time?
I mean, I definitely was really, really nervous at the time, because there's also the same stigma that you guys have in China and the US. Like, if you take a gap year, a lot of companies, I don't know about now, but back in the day, would definitely ask you, hey, what were you doing this whole time? Like, why weren't you working and, focusing on developing certain special skills? So I was definitely very nervous at the time, but I don't really believe in making kind of like a halfway decision, if that makes sense to you. If you're going to make a decision and you really want it, you might as well just go 100% at it. And that's what I did. I made a decision to book a one-way ticket 6 months from the day I was going to leave. And I was just like, I'm not gonna let anything tell me to not go or fail or just essentially regret my decision. I made one. I went 100% through, and I figured I could learn on the way.
Wow. Okay, that's incredible. And then during
Thank
this
you.
6 months, where did you visit? Do you still remember the list of cities or countries? I know it's like 80 years ago.
I don't know the exact countries or cities that I visit. I know I did a lot of Europe and a lot of Southeast Asia. So I know I was in between those two areas the most.
How many countries you have visited on your list? Have you calculated? I mean, counted.
I haven't actually counted before.
50, 40,
It's probably more than 50. Yeah. At this
50.
point.
Okay, that's, I don't know. Mine is like I think maybe 20, maybe a little bit less. Yeah.
Everybody has their own journey. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Is that how you got started with affiliate online marketing, and then maybe you end up with finding a remote job with Empire Flippers? Is that I'm
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So at Empire Flippers, I worked mainly as a migrations manager, and I focused a lot on the transfer of assets after a sale was completed. And it really allowed me to get a glance at how many different softwares and how people were using them
Right.
for different types of businesses. And I was
Okay.
also able to
Can I interrupt you a bit, because
yeah.
I think many of our audience don't know what Empire Flipper is. Maybe can we get started with, like, can you briefly introduce what Empire Flipper is? For those who don't know, it's a marketplace for buying and selling digital assets. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I worked at Empire Flippers, it was a brokerage that mainly allowed you to buy and sell your online, specifically digital assets. And so back when I worked there, the main businesses were really affiliate content sites, which was your typical, Amazon associate sites back in the day, and Amazon FBA, as well as some e-commerce sites. So those were the main type of, businesses that I saw when I was there. And so, a seller could come on, and if you were making a certain level of EBITDA on a per month basis, we would have an algorithm or a methodology to essentially figure out how much your business was worth. And then we would also, the platform allowed for buyers to essentially bid and negotiate a deal on your assets. And so at Empire Flippers, I got exposed to a lot of different type of businesses and a lot of different niches extremely quickly.
Got you. And then Empire Flipper, whether I'm buyer or seller, if the deal was made, then you take a certain commission. If I remember correctly, it's like 15%, because I tried to sell one website on that platform a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I don't know the exact percentages anymore. I think, with different volume amounts, they definitely change. And, maybe something that's more expensive, they take less commission. But I think when I was there, the standard was 15%. But again, I believe that's probably changed over the years.
Okay, got you. And then how did you find the job Empire Flippers? Was the interview process tough? Yeah, I'm just curious.
I think it was pretty tough. I'm not sure if I remember everything about that interview process, but I do remember that we had to record a video of ourselves, kind of like talking about ourselves, seeing how we are. And that was really, really weird to me, because going from a traditional company where there was like very traditional hiring process, you fly in for the interview, you meet them in person. This was the weirdest thing I had to do, is like record myself, upload it to YouTube, and then send it to them. So it was really, really cool to see how remote and digital they were, even at that point in time, which I think was like 2016, 2017.
Okay, I believe Empire Flipper also, funded around that time. I also know Justin and Joe. They were also, I think they were also from the DC community that we met several times in DC BKK in Bangkok. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. Now I want to know a little bit more about like what you do in Empire Flipper. You just mentioned that you work as a migration operation manager, something like that.
Yeah. So my main focus as a migrations manager was to transfer the assets after the sale was completed. And so you want to make sure that somebody doesn't own the domain name at both times when, the money hasn't come in, or you want to make sure that the transfer of the website files is done correctly and the softwares go over correctly, or the accounts for Amazon FBA. So we mainly made sure that all of the assets were transferred correctly before the funds were released.
Okay, got you. And then for those who want to sell or buy assets from Empire Flipper, since you have working there, what kind of tips would you give to them? Or what mistake did you see people make? During the process. Do you still remember?
I think the biggest thing for me is maybe like, or from what I remember, sorry, is definitely maybe not for the buyers, but for the seller side, at least on a migration standpoint, you want to have everything labeled and kind of under one account on one browser that you can just hand over to the seller. It makes it really easy. You don't have to go into every software, every asset, change every single password, make sure things are over and over. Sometimes if you do it correctly, you can literally just hand over the email account and then all the different passwords and logins to all of your assets. And that literally makes, the transfer seamless. So that's probably my biggest tip that I can give for based on the time when I was there.
Awesome. Yeah. I think some of our blog readers, they also sell website. Some of them might sell Amazon store as well. Yeah. I think they will find your tip super helpful. For me personally, yeah, I would expect someone give me this kind of advice when I'm ready to sell website. I still remember the first time I sell my website. I mean, there may be 3 different accounts, Gmail associated with GA, GSC.
Yeah.
And then those were emails I talk to employees. So yeah, you need to make it more organized. So treat it like real like assets, right? So it's asset is sellable. Don't treat it like your own business. Like you're not going to hold it forever, right?
Yeah, we would highly recommend that. I remember recommending it to so many people. It's like you can literally separate everything. And that's super important to make the transition seamless. And essentially, you just get your money faster, right? If you do all that, and get the assets done quickly. So,
yeah, that makes sense. All right, let's switch the gear a little bit. How did you get started with doing e-commerce? You said you actually found maybe your third job in Shenzhen, right? And then you got to know this kind of crazy e-commerce culture in China. You have been to many factories, companies with hundreds of employees. I mean, compared to the US, it's kind of insane, I know. Yeah. So how did you find that job in Shenzhen?
Finding that job in Shenzhen was actually a chance meeting between the CEO of the company and me at a conference. I can't actually remember which conference it was, but there was a conference where we were speaking and he just wanted to learn a little bit more about what we did at Empire Flippers and what their goals are. And I just ended up talking to him for a few hours. And and that's kind of where the conversation just started. And I was able to visit them in I was able to visit them in Shenzhen.
Opportunity comes from the networking, right? Not like you apply. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of the opportunity came from networking, and it was really good to talk to them and just kind of learn more about the China e-commerce side. And I was always personally interested in e-commerce, being able to sell things to people and I love the scalability, the data that e-commerce brings. So that's kind of how it started. It was just a lot of talking. And then eventually I was like, hey, I'm going to definitely give this a try out. I really want to dig deep into e-commerce. And that's how I went to Shenzhen to essentially work at a big FBA company. But
cool. Was that the first time you visit mainland China? Have you been there before?
It was. No. Shenzhen was my first introduction to China. So it was definitely different. Huge. China is humongous.
Okay. But you don't have language barrier, right? I mean, compared to other Americans.
Maybe. I would say I can speak normal China, like, friend Chinese, like, Chinese with your friends. But business Chinese was a little bit hard, and I did have to learn that very quickly when I got there.
Okay. Did you also have a cultural shock?
Yeah, a little bit, it's definitely the Chinese working culture can be very intense. I know that we used to have a saying called 996 or something like that.
996 你知道 ICU 吗？
ICU 是什么？不知道。
996 ICU 有一个网站叫做996 ICU。
点 ICU 像美国的 ICU 吗？就是医院里面的
ICU is like hospital ICU emergency.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's like if you work 996, you'll end up going to ICU one day.
真的吗？
Have you heard about this joke?
I haven't. I haven't. But
Yeah, I believe it's a domain that registered by a programmer, software engineer in Beijing. Just make fun of
oh,
this kind of
interesting.
culture, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I can understand like the culture was really intense because in the Shenzhen area there are a lot of big FBA sellers. So they all work extremely quickly to get through. They all work extremely quickly to make sure they're on top of their product launches, on top of their paid ads, and making sure that their brands are developing.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then that got you hooked up a little bit with the online marketing space, right? You are from like an engineering background, so I believe that's quite a shift doing engineering to do marketing. I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about how did you overcome the challenges and I don't know, mental
yeah.
challenges, especially for this part? How did you like resolve that part?
Yeah, I would say the biggest difference is between marketing and the chemical engineering is the pace at which it moves, but a lot of the concepts are similar, especially in the digital side where there's more data. So with chemical engineering, there was always a lot of data. You would learn how to essentially optimize different processes with a set limitation of resources. So let's for example say like you only had this budget and this much material. You would do mass balances, and you would try to figure out, hey, can I really transfer this much material from here to here. And I think a lot of that actually applies to most jobs that you are going to take in the future, or that you might go to in the future. There's going to be a lot of data involved with anything, and any type of project essentially. You want to question a lot of the assumptions or hypotheses that people make. So a lot of the concepts for me in the digital side of marketing was more data driven, and I was able to kind of learn that quite quickly because of my kind of data background in chemical engineering. But the focus was truly on learning the subject matter of paid ads, Google, Amazon, Facebook, as well as turning a lot of SEO strategy into numeric-based goals and KPIs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Like the more you do marketing, I feel like it's more like a science than like creativity. It's all, even if you're like a creative person, you create some
Yeah.
assets, marketing campaign, you need to data to reflect whether it's good, whether it's bad, and then how can you optimize and turn up the conversion rate, right? So marketing is all about the driving to convert the customer or traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. So for e-commerce specifically, I look at conversion rate optimization, not as much like the actual rate, but the process as a whole, right? Like which of each piece make up the best, or make up the 80/20 of the conversion that you're trying to get.
Mm-hmm. How long did you work for this e-commerce company in Shenzhen?
I believe it was there about a year and a half. Yeah, I think about a year and a half before I went off and kind of got my next job at an Amazon aggregator.
Okay, that I believe that was around the time then when COVID hit. Is it before
Yeah,
COVID or after COVID?
it was kind of right as COVID hit, and so as COVID hit, I decided to just move back to the US to be with my parents.
Ah, got you. I still remember, like I visited your office in Longhua.
Mm.
Yeah, and then we hung out in with Jason and with, I can't remember the other guys. Yeah, that was my last
Yeah,
memory with you when we were in China. And then after COVID, I also left China, and then mostly in Singapore and Thailand. Yeah.
yeah. I think a lot of people definitely COVID shifted priorities for a lot of people, and just people were moving around a lot after that. So
Mm-hmm.
um,
Especially for people who are doing international business or living
correct.
that kind of digital nomad life. COVID is a huge change to to everybody's plan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So after that, you looks like you kickstarted your own e-commerce business. What was the main motivation behind?
Yeah, the main motivation behind starting my own business in e-com was one, I really loved e-commerce still, and I wanted to continue in it. But I also wanted to always be my own business owner and be able to provide for my family and parents earlier than my anticipated goal. I had laid out, some plans as to what year I'm going to hit this specific goal and that specific goal. But after that, I was just like, well, why don't we just speed this up and see if I can't grow my own ecom brand and kind of hit those goals earlier than anticipated. So I really want to make sure I can provide for my parents as they get older. And then on the second note of that, I was also getting very frustrated with how slow bigger companies move as headcount increases. And I really wanted to test my ability to grow my own brand with the speed that I operate at when I implement strategies. So, between e-commerce, and kind of wanting to just make sure I can run a brand myself and prove to myself I can also run a business as well as take care of my parents. That's just kind of how I got started. I think, at any level or any type of business, somebody who's smaller and more nimble can usually provide a certain level of better customer experience than what a big box retailer or a big site can give you. Yeah.
Got you. Yeah, I think that kind of family-driven related goals is definitely a main motivation for a lot of entrepreneurs, in Asia, not just in China. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
cool.
every entrepreneur has their own goals. These were just the ones that I think are important to me.
Yeah, yeah. You remind me of I don't know what's the name of that. Also a American, but Vietnamese American, also live in
Oh,
Taiwan, and then he gave a presentation DCBKK. I think it was 2019. He also talked about his main motivation is his mom. He has a single mom from left Vietnam and then settled down in US, and then he founded a nonprofit organization to support that community. That was his main driving force to work harder and smarter to grow his business, and then it turned out to be very successful. Yeah, it was Davis. Yeah, I remember his name is Davis. I don't know if you
yeah,
know
that's
him.
that's that's just awesome to hear. I don't think I know him, but I'd love an intro at some point. That would be really cool
Yeah,
because
he's
yeah, the
super super
motivation
smart.
is
Yeah,
great.
he's in the consulting space. Yeah, cool, man. Yeah. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you kickstarted your own e-com brand? I mean, a lot of our audience, they work for either they are the co-founder of an e-commerce shop or they work for a big e-commerce company. I think they would be also curious about, how to start a brand. What's the step by step?
Yeah, so there are two ways, at least in my eyes, there are two ways you can start an e-com brand. You can either sell your own product or you can sell somebody else's product. One is a lot more capital intensive and one is a little bit less capital intensive. And you need to understand like what type of kind of goal that you're going to or trying to achieve within what specific time frame. So the fastest way to get started, in my opinion, is selling somebody else's product. So that's either becoming affiliate or building a store that hosts other people's products and items. And so you can start. So this is what I did. And I wanted to start this basically because I wanted to see how far I could get without investing too much capital. So I started mine with, around $500 and then essentially increased it now to the, I've essentially started, oh man, how do I say this? I started my business with $500. I wanted to increase it to 7 to 8 figures just using that base initial
So
investment.
you took the second
Um,
approach, right? You sell another, I mean, maybe something like a white labeling or drop shipping. You didn't create that product from scratch by yourself, right? You said it's a capital intensive.
Yeah, so I actually still don't sell white label products. I sell somebody else's brand. And so there are a lot of retailers out there who want you to sell their brand and have programs where you can just join and say like, hey, if I sell this product, what's my commission or what's my margin on this product? And so that I think is the quickest way to get started in
Mhm.
e-commerce. But there are some limitations to your scale as you get big, right? It's if you're trying to compete with Costco, because Costco sells somebody else's brand, Home Depot, Walmart, they all sell other people's brand, but they're really, really big retailers. And so to achieve that level of scale requires a really big amount of capital plus brand recognition over time. I think the other way to do e-commerce is to white label brand or use your own, create your own product. And that's a lot more capital intensive in the beginning. But as you scale, your brand becomes very, very popular, and your focus to get to, I don't know, maybe a 8-figure, 9-figure, 10-figure brand becomes a little bit, I think, easier than trying to scale up a brand where you are just selling somebody else's product. And so both ways work. It kind of depends on where you are at in your e-commerce journey and how you want to relate to your customers. You can relate to them by having a really, really good product, or you can relate to them by providing a very, very good customer service experience.
Gotcha. You have to find your own, that kind of unique stuff that you have, and then your competitors don't have, or you differentiate from them, right?
Yeah, either you can differentiate through your purchase journey, or you can differentiate through your product, right? And each kind of way of starting e-commerce, you can do both. And so I really chose the other one because I'm more of an operations guy, and that the operations from that really, really catered to my skill set.
Gotcha. How did you validate the product and the positioning you said is a good fit for the market? And how long did it take you to test that and then validate? Okay, it works. Now I need to scale up and I need to do marketing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of different ways you can vet a niche or a type of product or area where you want to sell products. One of the biggest things for me is just understanding price point, seasonality, demand, whether there's other competitors or suppliers that are in this space, whether they're doing D2C. I do have like a spreadsheet where I look at, a bunch of data points about every single niche that I was looking at. So that spreadsheet's kind of changed over time, but some of the key points is, making sure that it's viable, some of the initial data looks good. And then you don't want to spend too much time just analyzing sites or analyzing niches all the time, or else you just get into paralysis analysis or analysis paralysis. So after about a week, I chose one of the niches and I started building the site. And probably about 1 week after I built the site, I had my first 3 suppliers, and I just started testing. I started running Google ads and was able to make 1 sale off my first 5 days of ads, which kind of put me into the profit zone or immediately. And so I was like, look, if I can sell 1, I can sell many, many more. And that's when I just started to go all in on the niche and work up from there.
Okay, that sounds awesome. So paid ads, you mentioned like a Google ads is the first marketing channel you invested to test whether how people react to your product, right? That's part of the testing process. Yeah, I would say.
Yeah,
it's probably the quickest way. Yeah,
it's probably one of the, I would say Google Shopping ads is one of the quickest way to see where you compare and whether or not you're going to be able to convert. If for this type of business model, if you can convert on Google Shopping, you can convert in many other channels as well, whether that's text ads, whether that's retargeting, whether that's SEO in the future.
Awesome. And then, okay, was that brand still like the one that you're running right now, or is it, another one that I don't know?
Yeah, that brand is the same one I'm running right now. We've scaled quite intensely in the last 1.5 years.
Okay, 1.5 years. And then looks like it's doing pretty well. I know your site, and then the site statistics is also pretty good. And then the trend is like going up, like very healthy. There's a lot of we SEOs, it's less like a dream growth line that we want to achieve.
Yeah, I think I've been really lucky, and I'm blessed that my traffic looks like a hockey stick at the moment. And so my only prayer is keep working on the basics, make sure the fundamentals of SEO are still being implemented every day, and hopefully that right side graph just keeps going up.
Cool. And then when did you start investing in SEO? Do you still remember? Is it in month 6, month 10, something like that?
Yeah, so for us, what you want to do is make sure that your paid ads is settled, tuned, and profitable. And as those are tuned and you're reaching kind of, with paid ads, your customer acquisition costs they always only go up. And
Mhm.
there's a limitation to your return, kind of what they call like diminishing returns at some point. So you
I
can
think it's
keep
called
going.
ROAS, right? Do you still remember that kind of return, ROAS or ROI?
Yeah, ROAS. So a lot of people look at ROAS. A lot of people look at a different. Actually, a lot of people look at different metrics. I personally believe you have to look at the metrics that actually matter the most to your type of e-commerce business, because a lot of the time people don't understand what their true customer lifetime value is versus what they're selling now. So and it also a lot depends on your e-commerce story itself. So, for example, if you sell a product that nobody needs to buy again in 4 more years, then looking at ROAS might, whatever that ROAS target might not be the same as somebody who sells something that every month there's a new launch or something like that. So I look at specific metrics. ROAS is not one that's super important to me. I look at actual digital real estate. So I look at a lot more at impression share. I look at total impressions and whether or not I'm cornering the market where digital ads are being kind of shown. As long as I'm cornering those market, the conversion really happens on my landing page. And so I don't really care too much about the stats of, oh, I got this many conversions from this ads. I have to take some of the data that comes off my actual store and then compare it to my spend to calculate my own, cost per conversion and other metrics like that.
Yeah, sounds like you are really a data person, very analytical, you have everything in the book. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. Yeah.
But yeah, that's essentially the first part of my e-commerce store. And then the second part is when I started working on SEO. I would say I started investing time first at month 6 and then started investing funds later. And so with SEO, you have to do the fundamentals right. You have to get all your technical stuff done. You have to do all of your headings correctly. And with an e-commerce site, that actually can be difficult to do because of the amount of products that you have. And then you need to
Mhm.
build out your clusters, your topical clusters or topical authority in the right way to match, what you're selling on your site, essentially. So I did a lot of the on-page stuff for about 3.5 months, 4 months, a lot of keyword research, a lot of articles, a lot of collection pages and FAQs, and to make sure that you're picking the right keywords and you're understanding what's ranking and also doing the research, right? If you have a keyword, you need to make sure, does Google want a collection page? Do they want a blog? Do they want a product? What are they showing, right? So we did on page for about 4 months, and I did have a VA who was helping with that. So she was paid. And then after that, after a lot of the on page is done and you see where your rankings are, you can start figuring out how to get links to grow your overall domain authority and then go from there.
Cool. Wow. How did you get all this kind of SEO knowledge? Did you learn it by yourself, or is it um, credited to your previous working experience at Empire Flipper or the e-commerce
Yeah.
company in Shenzhen?
Yeah, so I think the SEO experience definitely comes from all of those different areas. I was able to learn a little bit about affiliate SEO when I was at Empire Flippers, and I learned a lot more about e-commerce SEO when I was at the company in Shenzhen, and then on my own, just tinkering a lot and learning and joining a couple of courses just to see what's out there and how people are different doing things. I was able to learn a lot about SEO, but I think if you take a look at it as a whole, a lot of the SEO concepts are very, very similar. There's not too many like deviations, but the biggest thing is that you want to implement very, very quickly and test and see where you are when you implement different strategies. So certain strategies actually only work for certain types of websites, and then some strategies work for different types of websites and different type of niches. So the thing with SEO always is to start as soon as possible, as soon as you can, and just every day chip away at it. Optimize headings, better technical structure, making sure that your internal links look good. And so you want to, I think all the concepts like internal links, topical authority, that's all the same. It's about implementing it on your business as fast as possible, looking at where you're ranking, and then going from there.
Cool. I sometimes get questions from my blog readers. They are also running their own e-commerce shops. They ask me, why can't I just invest in SEO in day one? Why we should wait until like month 6 or even after 1 year and then start doing SEO? So for people who ask this kind of question, what's your answer?
Yeah, I would definitely say you can invest in SEO on day one, but don't expect to see results until probably like month 6 or 7, especially if your site is like extremely new. One of the first and biggest signals for an e-commerce store is that you're spending on Google ads and Microsoft ads. That's like one of the key signals that I personally have seen, or I believe, that tells Google that you're serious about your e-commerce brand. If you're an e-commerce brand and you're spending money on Google ads, they know that you're a they know that you're a real brand, and that's where most brands start, right? Any brand that's real will be doing some level of paid traffic, and you can do SEO around that. But I personally think you should at least start with paid traffic first, make sure you're profitable, and then from there scale your SEO.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then speak of this, do you think that spending ads on Google will actually help make your site SEO better, not just from a branding perspective? Google maybe favor website that do Google ads with them because you are their paying customer. Then maybe they give you a little bit extra boost for your website SEO. Do you believe this kind of theory or speculation?
Yeah, I don't. So, I think everybody saw the release of the papers that came out about how the Google algorithm works. I just feel like there's never really it's always kind of like a black box. You kind of don't really know what actually helps you rank. And so you always have to test. But I personally think if there is branded search volume for your business or your e-com brand, that's an indicator to Google that you are serious, people are looking for you, and that they need to show you. So if you are spending ads on your brand name and people are clicking it and having a good experience, and you're also advertising on shopping, I think it's a really good indicator like, hey, this is a real brand. I don't know if it helps you rank a certain page, but it tells you that tells Google that you're a real brand and that you at least have some level of brand recognition.
Yeah. I think you're talking about that Google API leak happened in May. Yeah, a couple of months ago. Yeah,
correct.
So it definitely favors ranking website that has a brand search volume, brand recognition. I also personally think Google is very smart because people love brands. Their users love brands. So and then they just use the click data, use the people and give them more about what the users want, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I firmly believe they're using click data to see like, hey, is this the right result? Are we, if we show this, is the user truly on Google search truly finding what they're looking for?
Cool. Moving on, you you mentioned a lot of SEO optimization tactics and tips like internal linking, on-page SEO, keyword research. Can you maybe just use 1 or 2 example, to show us how you do that? I don't know if seems like you have prepared a few sites. Maybe you can screen share the site and then go over a few examples specifically.
Yeah, when it comes to like e-commerce tactics, I think they're all mainly the same. You have a lot of internal linking, you have topical authority optimization. But for me personally, my current focus is on ranking actually collection pages with descriptors. So I can show you an example of that, but I think everybody understands cluster content, topical authority. But what I'm currently focused on is ranking a level of topical concentration, but around keywords that are collection based or purchase intent collections in blog posts. So what I mean by this is, for example, I would never rank a keyword around, let's say, something like iPhone case, right? That's a very generic keyword. Are they looking for a red iPhone case or blue iPhone case? It doesn't really, it's something that could be really, really hard to rank. It's probably dominated by Amazon or Target or something like that. But with your advantage with the e-commerce brand is that maybe you have a certain product, you can target something like iPhone cases. You could target iPhone cases for construction workers, or iPhone cases for, hospital workers or nurses. And this would allow you to tackle that problem or that angle of product solution, product market fit for that keyword. And you could really spend time ranking yourself for something like iPhone case for construction workers, because it's really the intent is very, very different from somebody who's just searching iPhone case. And maybe there's not a lot of, maybe there's not hundreds of thousands of search volume, but everybody knows, like, if you can rank position 1 for one certain keyword, there's always going to be a lot of long tail keywords that contribute to the traffic. And you can build the collection page kind of as a landing page to solve that specific problem and talk to that specific customer base. So, but that's, I think, would be the key advantage that e-commerce sites currently have against the other kind of competitors that are out there.
Yeah, I also agree that targeting this kind of long tail keywords, even specific scenarios, could be one of the keyword strategy that e-commerce, especially like if like a small or medium-sized e-commerce shop, it cannot compete with like Apple or their partners who has DR 70 or 80 plus, right? Yeah, so you have to find another route.
Yeah, so because, like, you'll never, depending on how you execute, you'll never beat a brand where they're the best or their own product. But for example, you can solve any of the questions that somebody might have around that product. And so in terms of an example, what I'll show you here, you can see my screen. So Wellness Junction, I think, does a really good job of that. So if you take a look, shop by concern, if you, they actually have these collection pages that are based on different issues that people might have. So if you look here, you can see that they've already optimized their HTML, right? Air purifiers for allergies and asthma. So they're specifically designing this page to point people towards air purifiers that might solve something related to asthma or allergies. So this is like a super targeted collection page that you can easily rank and is easily probably something that solves a problem very, very specifically. And so they do this on a shop by concern. You can do it for viruses and bacteria. You can see air purifiers for viruses and bacteria. And so a lot of, I think this site does a great job. A lot of the tactics or the focus where I'm at is also ranking my collection pages on certain problems that can be solved in this manner. And it doesn't just have to be, issues like viruses and bacteria. You can even rank pages based on descriptors or verses, just like you used to do with affiliate sites. So
yeah, I also see these websites DR26. Yeah, they're ranked for some big volume keywords like 1.6K comparisons, air purifier with the humidifier, something like that. Yeah, it's a decent. Okay.
So you can really outshine a lot of competitor websites when you target the customer that you're trying to talk to. And so this is, I think, one of the great advantages of e-commerce, especially when you run your own site, that you can take advantage of. If you sell something like hair wigs or something, you can target wigs towards a very specific audience, right? Wigs for people that have, that need it for this occasion or something like that. It's your job to do the keyword research, but I guarantee you can always find keywords for something out there.
Okay, how do you do on-page optimization for this kind of connection page? What's your tip? Like from SEO title to copywriting to listings?
I think in terms of a tip, it's always the same thing no matter what page you're on. You always want your main keyword as the H1 for that page, matching the URL, matching your your SEO title and your meta description. And then my VA usually researches a few different secondary keywords about that page that they might be able to insert. So you go on, SEMrush, Ahrefs, plug in the main keyword, look at some, related associated keywords and just find those keywords. And then once you have a batch of like 4 or 5 secondary keywords, you make sure you sprinkle them in during any of the headings, H2s, H3s that you lay out on the collection page. Whatever software you use to lay on the collection page, that's really up to the e-commerce owner. But for this specific example, all of my collection pages, even if you looked at the example that I showed you, Wellness Junction, you can see that they've done some optimization on where are the H1s, the H2s. Make sure your alt tags, your image file names are all done correctly and are related to that page. So
Yeah,
structure, I think, is the same as any other page for any other niche. Like for SaaS, for affiliate content, you're always optimizing these things, but you're just making sure, in this case, the collection page does the same exact thing. There are some nuances if you're using WordPress versus Shopify and things like that. You're going to have to use different softwares, but conceptually, it's still the same.
Got you. Yeah, I personally believe this kind of on-page techniques, optimization tips, they are like step 2. Step 1 is you find really, really good keywords, long tail, scenario, and then preferably low KD, right? So even if the search volume is a bit lower, but the conversion rate will be higher, right?
Yeah. I mean, collection pages, on page of it is just one piece. You also want to make sure you're copywriting, right? Making sure that you're selling your product, because at the end of the day, e-commerce is about selling the product. So
what's your link building strategy for your e-com website?
So I still feel like a newbie kind of when I do link building. Right now, I think my biggest focus.
I think you're being very humble. Being a newbie, you cannot just grow a e-com website like to have that kind of hockey stick, curve. That's very hard. I think you have some secret sauce.
I don't think I have any secret sauce. I will say, for example, that I got really lucky. I think Google really favored e-commerce sites after the March 2024 update, and so I think all e-commerce sites got a little lucky. But the bump definitely came after I started doing the on-page optimization across the entire site. And then started building some links. And so the main 2 strategies I'm testing right now are guest posting and digital PR. And really, I believe that if you want to make a really big site, you should imitate big sites to a certain degree. And so, for example, if you take a look at Forbes or Business Insider, a lot of these big sites, their articles rank naturally just from the high DR that comes with their homepage or their site as a whole. And so if you target specific pages or try to rank only one page out of the entire website, it just probably looks a little bit unnatural to Google in my eyes. And so right now, my biggest focus is digital PR, because I'm just trying to raise my overall DADR and make it look like any other site would. And it's also a good practice, actually, to come out with studies and concepts that might actually help my customer base, which is probably the most important thing, I think, for me, is like being able to use not link building just as a SEO strategy, but also being able to help the customers with some of the articles or the content that you put out there. And then on top of that, the guest posting is to target certain collection pages or certain blog posts that either lead as a top of the funnel page to a certain product, or it's a conversion landing page for a certain product, and get the right traffic to those pages if it's a little bit more competitive.
Got you. So in summary, it's like you use digital PR, build backlinks to your homepage to boost the overall domain authority, and then combined with guest posts to boost the specific category page or product page that you want to rank higher, right?
Yep. And so currently I am using paid services for both of those, and testing that out, and also testing a few different ways where we can get some links, some outreach on our own. So
have you tried Haro?
We are using Haro at the moment. We're using, I think, the new one, Hero. I believe the original created another service. And so we are using both, but you have to, that's essentially for us a numbers game. So we are trying to answer as many queries as we can, as fast as we can, and give an answer that comes from the content of our site, the expertise of our current e-com brand. So for us, it's been hit or miss. We've gotten some links on there, but I, at this point, believe it's a numbers game. And so we're just going to keep doing it, making sure that we're optimizing the amount of time that we spent on those links, or on those queries, essentially. And then hopefully we get a lot. So we are using Haro. We are using some of the places where journalists go, like journalist databases, to see if we can't respond back to a lot of these queries.
How big is your team? It looks like you have a lot of VAs, freelancers, maybe, I don't know, full-time to help you out.
Actually, the team is not that big. It's only about 2 to 3 people, with one person being kind of part-time work. The great thing I love about SEO is that you can do a lot of the optimization. There's a lot of work that you have to do when you first start SEO. But as your SEO grows, as you get better and you rank more, a lot of that initial work turns to a lot of tuning. So you spend a lot more time tuning, but it's probably not as work intensive as just when you first start out and you have absolutely nothing on your site, if that makes sense. So that's the thing we love about SEO, or at least I love about, SEO. So, I had 2 VAs who were doing the on-page work for almost 4 months. And now we don't have to do as much on-page work as we used to. We focus a lot about tuning the secondary keywords, seeing which pages need tuning, which ones don't, and we go from there.
Looks like you are a master of doing this kind of hiring and team management. Can you share some of your secrets for how to hire this kind of best A player? Where are they from? Which platform did you use to seek these kind of talents?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm the best at finding A players for my team, but I think a lot about like finding the right person for the right seat or the right role in my company. So, for example, if I have a customer service role versus a operations role, I would do those 2 interviews completely different. Like for the customer service role, the interview would highly involve talking to the person on the phone, doing role play on certain scenarios that happen in the business that we're currently working through. Or I might actually bring customers questions from my site and see how they answer them without any context. And then for somebody who's operations based, who is handling the back end, I might not even do a phone interview. I would probably do an interview over Slack, where they type, and I want to see how quickly they type. How do they type? How do they communicate? How do they solve a problem? How do they click through things and see if they actually solve the task using basic kind of functional testing, instead of just like a phone interview or something like that. So I don't know if this is the best methodology, but my focus is on making sure that the person can solve the immediate task at hand. So after you can make sure that the person can solve the task at hand, I do a little bit of talking and testing on their soft skills. I want to make sure somebody who's motivated, who can find answers and is proactive and things like that. But I do a lot of kind of filtering with that initial practical test.
Got you. It works for you, right? It's not. I mean, there's no best tactics for hiring. It's just whatever works for you is the best.
Yeah. So for now, that's what's worked for me.
Cool. What platforms or channels do you use to find these freelancers and players?
Yeah. So right now, I'm using a few different places. I have I think it was Upwork. I've looked for a few people there. I've used onlinejobs.ph. I've used
That's for
Hire My.
Philippines, right? Onlinejobs.ph.
Yeah, Online Jobs is for Filipinos, and I've used Hire My Mom, and I've also used, I think, the Dynamite
Wait.
Circle.
Okay.
Actually,
Hi, my mom. HiMyMom.com, something like that.
yeah, it's for moms that are looking for a remote job in the U.S. So it's a
Oh,
very
wow.
specific site.
Interesting. It's my first time to hear about this, but the name is very catchy. It's Hi My Mom.
It is very catchy, and you want to make sure you're looking for the right, the right people for the right role. And I thought they would be a perfect fit for some of the roles in my organization. And then I also used the job board that's offered by Dynamite Circle, because a lot of the applicants that are on there are mainly remote.
Got you. Yeah, I think Dynamite Jobs is good for hiring this kind of mid-level or advanced, project managers, senior level.
Yeah.
Yeah. Got you. Okay, we are actually at a 1 hour mark. I still have like 2 more questions, maybe general question for you. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So do you consider yourself to be a digital nomad? You have been traveling all year round. Looks like sometimes you've been to 5 countries in 2 months. Yeah. How did you manage that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can consider me a digital nomad. You know, when I first started my jobs, everything was remote while I was traveling. So I definitely been doing the digital nomad thing for a really, really long time. But I have slowed down quite a lot over the last couple of years. I tend to go to a country and live there for 4 or 5 months before I move now, so that I'm not moving around all the time. A lot more of my focus is on the ecom brand. But yeah, I guess I am a digital nomad. And I will continue to be, but probably a little bit of a slower digital nomad moving forward.
Cool. Which countries are your favorite? Can you maybe just rank them top three, top five?
In terms of working, I would say like it changes, right? I rank different countries depending on what function they serve. For example, I really love Portugal for working if you have US hours, or Prague, Czech Republic is really great because you work in the afternoon to mid, like maybe early evening, and then you technically have your mornings and your late nights to yourself. So I think working in Brazil for the hours was great as well. All of those options have great Wi-Fi, extremely, extremely convenient in many different ways with the services that they offer now, and just have a lot of great work environments. In Asia, I do love Thailand. So Thailand has always been my favorite for if you just need to sit down, concentrate, get things done, type of place. And there's also many entrepreneurs there. So top three, probably like Portugal, Brazil, and Thailand.
That's nice. Not
Yeah.
Africa, right? You've been to Africa, Morocco, something like that.
I've been to Africa before. Unfortunately, this has nothing to do with them. It's just like I think the infrastructure can be a little bit tough sometimes. There's not, if the power goes out or something like that, it doesn't just immediately come on. And so it might not be great for anybody who just always needs a reliable Wi-Fi connection to work.
Cool. What tips or advice would you give to people who also want to pursue a lifestyle like yours? I believe they are like maybe just graduated from university. They're either looking for a job or looking to design their future lifestyle. It's like the younger yourself, 10 years younger.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to people like that?
I think for me, this is a really, really difficult question. Because I feel like advice is only applicable to somebody who was in the same situation that I was in, at the point that I made that decision. In terms of like, if you were to go now, knowing what I would know um, is that this lifestyle is a choice. It's not really it's not something where that just naturally appears. It's a choice to become a digital nomad, and you want to make sure you understand like the things that are going to happen when you're a digital nomad. That you're going to have to find your own community. That you're going to have to be able to travel around and do all of that. So, and it comes with different issues. Like a lot of digital nomads are a little bit, I would say, lonelier because you're traveling all the time. It's hard to find a base where there's a community. And that's why I kind of slowed down now too. So, I mean, my biggest tip is to know and maybe talk to some digital nomads that are in your field. So if you want to be like a developer digital nomad, make sure you talk to some digital nomads that are developers and are traveling right now, that you can reach out to. Make sure so you can understand what their lifestyle and how they structure their work that could be similar to the work that you're going to do as well.
Yeah,
That would probably be my
that's a
biggest
great
tip.
advice, I would say. Yeah. For me, I mean, my biggest, not to answer that question, but I think take action, is step one. And step two, find your community. That really helps. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Cool. Yeah. Any other, what's your daily routine looking like when you're working and then when you travel? And then any productivity tips or hacks you want to share?
Daily routine is a little bit tough for me. I do try to take one of my biggest things is to do a workout in between working sessions, so to refresh my brain. So I usually do maybe like 2 to 3 hours of serious work in the morning, and then I do a workout for an hour to refresh, get the endorphins moving again. And then I do another chunk either right after the workout or at night, depending on which time zone I'm in. So currently I'm in Asia, so I tend to work a little bit later at night, maybe around 10 p.m. to 1 a.m. And so my biggest tip is to try to segment your days and tasks. And then in terms of hacks, I don't really have any like hacks. I mean, one thing I do is I do write down my top 4 or 5 things that has to be done every week, and I make sure those top 4 or 5 things are done. Within like it trumps everything else. Second is I actually this is really weird, but I stopped taking out my laptop charger when I go to a cafe to work for 4 hours, so that I know that if my battery is dying, that I actually do work and not mess around or go on YouTube or get distracted or something. So that actually forces you to really think about your time management. And then beyond that is checking email is just a time suck. So I pretty much only check twice a day. So once in the morning, get rid of everything that needs to get rid of, answer anything that you need to get answered, and then at night when the emails start coming in again, I do a little checking then. But I always make sure I have 1 to 4 hours of solid block to work on strategic initiatives.
That's awesome tips. Yeah, a lot of them resonate with me, especially like that, take a laptop out without getting the charging, go to Starbucks or coffee shop. You just make sure you do all the work, before the battery dies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Create that kind of urgency. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of like studies out there that talk about procrastination and urgency, and I know myself. I can definitely get distracted with YouTube, with anything that's out there, like with a cat just walking by, right? But so I know that I work best when there's a sense of urgency. So I just artificially created that urgency by making sure that my battery dies within the next 3 or 4 hours on my laptop.
Got you. Okay, awesome. Yeah, there's so many distractions around us these days, like especially social media. And every platform try to keep you there longer and then not switch. Yeah, it's hard to stay away from that sometimes. Yeah,
definitely.
Okay.
I agree.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Really appreciate all the tips and the stuff that you shared. So for those who want to follow you, what's the call to action? I don't know if you're available on social media. What's the best way to keep in touch with you if our audience want?
Yeah, I'm definitely not on social media, so I think the best way would be just to check out my LinkedIn. I'm on there occasionally, and I do respond back to people, but feel free to add me and reference this podcast. But I think it's at AndyWu1. But I can shoot you over my LinkedIn, and we can go.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many people in China will use LinkedIn. Yeah. Okay. Do you use WeChat?
I do have WeChat, so I can give you a profile at some point. I guess we can discuss in private, but I do also have WeChat and other social profiles, but it's more private. Maybe we'll come up with one for my SEO.
Okay. Maybe no need
SEO Andy.
Maybe see you maybe one day in Shenzhen, because I'm thinking about hosting this kind of workshops or just meetups in Shenzhen, so you can meet some of our audience or e-commerce, brands. E-commerce entrepreneurs like you, in Shenzhen. Yeah, maybe one day. One day.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely open to it. I'd love to go back to Shenzhen and talk to other e-commerce entrepreneurs and see where people are in their journeys and learn something from them. And hopefully I have something of value to give as well.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah, then thank you very much for taking the time for this awesome interview. I really enjoyed it. You shared a lot of insights and tips, not just SEO, not just e-commerce, but lifestyle related. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm pretty sure that my audience will love it. Yeah, so thank you, Andy.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, and hopefully I helped. Thanks so much.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, take care. Let's keep in touch.
All right, sounds good. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.